Here are some of the tools and supplies you will need when you go to install drapery. A drill, ideally it's cordless, drill bits, screws and plugs for all sorts of surfaces, hand tools, a metal tape measure, a laser measure for certain applications, extension cord, a ladder, and a laser level, ideally on a tripod. And please note that there are some tripods on the market that can go as tall as 16 feet. The other items you will need will be eye screws, a pencil, needle nose pliers, a small hammer just for tapping, a pair of scissors, a drop cloth, gloves in case your hands have any burrs or anything that can snag on the fabric, as well as an envelope with some painter's tape so you can tape that to the wall so when you're drilling the drywall dust goes into the envelope. You could use a paper plate or something similar for mounting plugs into the ceiling. You might also want to bring some indoor shoes as they're far more comfortable when you have to climb ladders. It's a good idea to speak with the designer before you install to make sure that you're both on the same page with the installation. Let's start by opening up the box that has the drapery in it. It's really important to make sure that your blade isn't very long because you don't want to accidentally cut any of the fabric. Let's start with the living room. Take a look in the box and find the fabric for the living room. You'll notice that it will have a sheet in there with all sorts of information, but specifically we want to find this. We want to find the drop and the width. We're just going to take a quick measurement on the width and the height and double check that everything was ordered correctly. Now let's cut into the box with the hardware in it. You'll notice that there's two packages of hardware, one for the living room and one for the bedroom. Go ahead and remove all the packaging off the hardware that you intend to install first. If it's quite a wide track, you'll have a splice on one end or maybe on multiple ends. There's going to be some stoppers, just leave those alone for now. And when you find a bag that has all the plates and brackets for your wall-mounted brackets, just go ahead and separate those out for now. Just to give you an idea how these pieces all come together, the silver part, that's the part that would be screwed onto the wall, and then the plate goes on top of it to cover it up, and then it simply slides into the arm of the bracket, and then on the bottom there's just a set screw to tighten it up. Ideally, we want to place the brackets 4 inches in from either side. We're going to go ahead and undo those little screws that are holding that silver part inside the top of the headrail. Take our Allen key, insert it into the screw, and then we're going to just screw that right into that little silver part there. If you find that you're having trouble connecting the screw into the silver part, simply go to the end cap, unscrew that, slide it off, and then you'll be able to do that in your hand. When you've got those connected, simply slide that back into the headrail and reattach the end cap. Ensure that you have a bracket 4 inches in from either side, whether you have end caps on both sides or an end cap and a splice on the other side. Any other brackets will be positioned splitting the difference between. If you have a spliced track, it's important to put the track on something flat, like the floor, for example. This way, when you connect the splice, everything will be perfectly aligned. Before connecting the splice, make sure that you can't feel any of the set screw on the bottom part of the splice, otherwise it's not going to go in. Go ahead and loosen those top set screws. And then simply slide it in. And then just hand tighten those set screws. Now it's time to start putting the brackets up. And knowing that the top of rod minus 3/8 of an inch is where the top hole is going to go, will make the installation process a lot easier. Go ahead and mark on the wall where those screw holes are going to go. When you go to screw it into the wall, make sure that your first screw goes into the horizontal oval, and then your second screw go into the vertical oval. and slide those plates on. On a spliced track, we want to ensure that we have a bracket on either side of the splice. So these parts are to prevent any of the sliders from coming off, so you just give it a twist and they'll come out. And then before we put it on the actual wall, we're going to make sure that these are out a little bit, because the bottom of the set screw will impede the arm from going onto that post if it's still down. This is where you might need a second set of hands in order to get the wide track up onto those posts. If one of them isn't going on quite right, you might need to take it down, adjust the spacing of the bracket, and then try again. Once it's on, you can go ahead and tighten up all the set screws on the bottom. Take your needle nose pliers and gently squeeze at the base of the hook, and that way the baton will go on quite easily. Once you're done with the hardware, make sure to wash your hands before touching the drapery. So when you first get your drapes out, you want to just put the edges together and find the first seam. Shears won't have seams, but regular drapery weight will. The wider width will always be towards the center of the window. This side is going to be closest to the wall. So this means on this equal pair, this is going to be the center front, and this is going to go towards the left. Take the weight of the drapes and place it over your shoulder. On the wave drape, the first two hooks are going to go on the wave end clip. Just going to show you how this is done. We always start from the center of the track, going back towards the outside. Don't worry about how it's going to look when it first goes up. See how it looks right now? It's all messy. It's okay. I'm going to start at one end, push that in, make sure this is out, push in, pull out, push, pull, push, pull. You can already see it's looking a lot better. When you see that the end is quite pointy, what we're going to do is we're just going to snap off a couple of these little squares here. And that's going to allow the fabric to go around it, round instead of pointy. We just want to double check that the projection of the bracket is correct to make sure that the drapery is coming down straight. This is an example of the extended bracket. And just to show you, even when the drapes are hanging, this part can come forward a bit. That's no problem. You don't want to push it too far out because you don't want the track to fall down. Just bring it out a little bit and then you can tighten it into position. Just going to double check our work and make sure that that drape comes down straight. Now this is the exciting part. We get to spread the drapes out and take a look at how it looks so far. You will notice at this point it looks a little bit rough. You can steam it if need be. The goal here is to soften the fabric. Creases will take time to come out. The fabric will need to acclimate to the humidity of the new environment. Typically that takes 3 to 4 weeks for most fabrics, but some fabrics could take a few months. When steaming, you start at the bottom and in 3-foot sections, steam from the bottom going up vertically, because as you're working on the bottom of the drape, the steam is starting to rise up and work on the top of the drape. It's time to bind the drapes. If you have a drape about the same width as what I'm working with, you can just take the bag that the drape came in and slice off some sections. If it's quite a wide drape, you can cut the bag in the opposite direction and then tape it to make the circle. And then I'm just going to gather up all the fabric and put it inside. We're going to start about 18 inches down from the top. So we want to make sure that the lining is not coming away from the fashion fabric. So I'm just going to set my hand in behind each one of these folds and make sure that they're behaving and that the lining is not coming apart from the fashion fabric. Now that we've got top section done, I'm going to do the part right below it. You want to do this incrementally so that we have full control on how this is going to look. Make sure that what I'm creating down here matches what's above. Sometimes you might have a lot of extra fabric that wants to go to the side, so it's really important to make sure that that's not happening, that everything is controlled. It's important that we do all the way to the very, very bottom, because anything below this binding will dance. So that's why we have to have this binding right at the very bottom at the hemline. Now it's important that the customer leaves it there for 5 days. I took mine out after 3 days and they started kicking out and this had to be redone. Now you can see how the folds are already starting to form. And over this next few days, the fabric is going to start acclimating to the humidity of the new environment. 5 days have passed and now the big reveal. At this point there could still be some wrinkles and creases, that's okay. Most fabrics are going to take some time to fully acclimate and relax. Typically that's 3 to 4 weeks, though some fabrics could take a few months. Take a look at the difference before the drapes are trained to after the drapes are trained. It's such an important step. It is time consuming, but it's so worth it. Look at the end result.